You open your eyes, and the first thing you feel is already tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. Something heavier. You lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, aware that there are things you need to do, things you told yourself you would do yesterday and the day before that. And yet, somehow, the idea of starting feels almost physically impossible. So you reach for your phone, not because you want to. Almost automatically, like your hand moved before your brain gave permission. You scroll through nothing in particular, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet, familiar thought appears. What is wrong with me? That thought, that specific thought. That's what this is about. Because for a lot of people, the story they tell themselves is that they are lazy, that they lack willpower, that other people somehow have access to a kind of motivation or discipline that just never showed up for them. And so they carry this private shame, this low-level sense that they are failing at something. Most people manage just fine, getting up, doing their work, moving forward. But here's what's actually happening, and it's not what most people expect to hear. The human brain was never designed to operate in the world you are currently living in. That's not an excuse, it's a fact. And understanding it changes everything about how you see yourself. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its entire job, at its most fundamental level, is to make decisions by calculating cost versus reward. Every time you consider doing something, your brain runs a fast, mostly unconscious calculation. How much energy will this cost me, and how much value is likely to come from it? When the math feels worth it, you move. When the math doesn't feel worth it, you don't. And this system worked beautifully for most of human history, because the world was simpler. The signals were clearer, and the number of decisions a person had to make in a single day was a fraction of what it is today. Now think about your actual day. You wake up, and immediately your attention is pulled in multiple directions before you've had a single coherent thought. Your phone shows you notifications, messages, news, social media updates, all of them requiring small decisions. You go through your morning, and you're already making choices, filtering information, managing expectations, preparing for conversations, anticipating problems, all before you've done anything that counts as actual work. And then the work itself arrives, and with it come more decisions, more inputs, more things demanding a piece of your processing power. And this continues, hour after hour, without a real break, because even the moments that should be rest are filled with more stimulation, more scrolling, more passive consumption that still costs your brain energy, even when it feels like nothing. By the time evening comes, you sit down with the intention to do something meaningful. That project you care about, that habit you keep trying to build, that conversation you keep postponing, and nothing comes. You feel blank, resistant. Like the part of you that was supposed to show up is simply not there. And you call it laziness, but it has a different name. Mental overload doesn't announce itself the way physical exhaustion does. When your body is tired, it hurts. Your muscles ache. There are clear, undeniable signals. But when your mind is overloaded, the experience is often just flatness, a kind of internal resistance that feels like unwillingness. It feels like you don't care. It feels like you're choosing not to try. And because it feels like a choice, you blame yourself for it. This is where things get strange. The more you blame yourself, the worse the overload becomes. Self-criticism is not neutral. It activates the same stress systems in your brain that activate in response to external threats. So when you lie there, judging yourself for not getting up, for not doing the thing, for being the kind of person who can't seem to function, you're not motivating yourself. You're adding another layer of cognitive and emotional weight on top of a system that was already overwhelmed. You're putting more load on the engine that was already failing to run, and this creates a loop that can last for months, sometimes years. You feel overloaded, so you don't act. You don't act, so you judge yourself. You judge yourself, so you feel worse. You feel worse, so the threshold for action becomes even higher. And the whole time, from the outside, it looks like someone who just can't be bothered. What most people miss is how invisible this process is, even to the person experiencing it. Because you're not sitting there thinking, I am mentally overloaded and therefore cognitively unable to initiate complex tasks. You're thinking, I should just do it. Why can't I just do it? What is wrong with me? The experience is indistinguishable from laziness when you're inside it. That's why the shame goes so deep. Let's look at this more carefully, because the mechanics matter here. There's a limited resource your brain uses to make decisions. Exercise self-control, filter distractions, and sustain focused effort. It's not infinite. It doesn't reset with a cup of coffee. It depletes across the day in response to the total cognitive load you carry, and that load includes not just what you actively do, but everything you're managing silently in the background. The worry you're holding about money, the relationship tension you haven't resolved, the 17 open tabs in your browser, the unread messages you're aware of but haven't answered, the plans you made that you're not sure you can keep, the version of yourself you're trying to be and feel like you keep falling short of. All of that has weight. All of it costs something. And when the total cost exceeds what your system can carry, your brain does something very specific. It starts refusing non-essential functions, and what it classifies as non-essential, first and fastest, are exactly the things you most want to do but feel least urgently required. Your personal projects, your health routines, your creative work, your growth, the things that matter most in the long run but have no immediate deadline. No external pressure, no one waiting for them right now. This is why the most ambitious people, the people with the biggest dreams and the most genuine desire to build something, are often the most stuck. It's not because they don't care, it's because caring takes energy they don't have left by the time the day is done, and the modern world has become almost perfectly engineered to accelerate this depletion, not through malice, just through the accumulated effect of design systems built to maximize engagement. Every app, every platform, every notification, every feed is optimized to pull your attention, which means pulling your cognitive resources, which means accelerating the drain. You're not weak for being affected by this. You're human in an environment that was designed to exceed human capacity. So what does this actually mean for you? For the specific experience of lying on the couch when you wanted to be productive, or opening your phone when you meant to start something important, or saying tomorrow again when today had been the plan. It means that the problem is not your character. It means the gap between who you want to be and what you actually do in a given moment is not a moral failure. It's an information gap. Your brain is telling you something is wrong with the load, not with you, and this is why that matters. Once you understand what's actually happening, the solutions stop being about pushing harder and start being about working with the system instead of against it. The first thing that changes is when you do things. Most people treat their day as a flat surface where effort is equally available at any point, but cognitive capacity follows a real pattern. There are windows in your day, usually in the morning before the full weight of everything has accumulated, when your brain's capacity for difficult, meaningful work is genuinely higher, not because of willpower, because of biology. And most people spend those windows on inputs, checking, scrolling, responding, reacting, and save the real work for later, when the capacity is already depleted. Reversing that single pattern is not a dramatic life overhaul, but the effect can be dramatic. The second thing that changes is how you think about rest. Real cognitive recovery doesn't happen during passive scrolling. It actually requires reducing stimulation, not replacing one kind with another. Sitting quietly, walking without your phone, lying down without an audio cast or a video playing. These things feel uncomfortable because your brain has been trained to expect constant input, but they are the actual mechanism through which cognitive capacity rebuilds. What you call boring is often what your brain needs most. The third thing, and this one is subtle, is that reducing the number of small decisions you have to make has an outsized effect on how much capacity you have for the things that matter. When you eat the same breakfast without thinking about it, when you have a default answer for low-stakes choices, when you stop deliberating over things that don't actually matter, you're not being rigid, you're preserving resources. This is the real reason that some of the most productive people in the world wear the same clothes and eat simple meals. Not because they're eccentric, but because they understand that every trivial decision is a withdrawal from the same account. The fourth change is probably the hardest, but also the most important, and it's about the background load. All that silent weight you carry, the unresolved conversations, the lingering uncertainty, the things you've been avoiding because they're uncomfortable. Every single one of those things is running in the background of your brain, consuming resources even when you're not thinking about them consciously, addressing them. Not all at once, not perfectly, but making forward motion on them reduces the background load and frees up capacity for everything else. The procrastinated email that's been sitting for 3 weeks costs more in background processing than it would take to just send it. None of this is about becoming a different person. It's about understanding the person you already are, more accurately. Because what happens when people finally understand this is not that they suddenly become machines of productivity. It's something quieter and more valuable than that. The self-judgment starts to lift. The shame around the couch, the phone, the unfinished things. It starts to feel less like evidence of who you are and more like a signal about what you need. And signals are useful. Shame, mostly, just adds to the load. You are not built wrong. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do inside an environment that constantly asks more of it than it was designed for. The gap you feel between intention and action. That painful space where you know what you should do and still can't seem to do it. That gap is not a character flaw. It's the natural result of a system under more pressure than it can hold. Understanding that doesn't solve everything, but it changes the lens completely. And changing the lens is where everything else begins. If this felt familiar, comment not lazy. It helps me know this is something more people are silently dealing with.